retirement landscape in America has not only changed in the past, but will continue to change in the future. And in today's video, we're going to show you how to prepare for it. In 1980, nearly half of the private sector employees had a pension, meaning guaranteed income for life. Today, less than 10% of private sector employees have access to those same pensions. We now have what's called defined contribution plans, otherwise known as 401k plans. And the responsibility for funding those plans is entirely up to you. This is great and offers even more flexibility if you're prepared, but it can be costly if you're not. Most people do this. They save to their 401k and put all their eggs in one basket. Now, saving is better than not saving at all, but now that you have the responsibility for saving, you also have the responsibility for spending that money in retirement. You also want to have the flexibility to spend money today if you need it. That's why having your money in proper accounts can have a significant impact, not just on how much you pay in taxes today, but also in retirement, not to mention the flexibility you have when it comes to spending your money. We all know the importance of having a well-diversified portfolio, but that's more than just what you're invested in. It also includes what type of accounts you're in. The three types of accounts are tax-deferred, taxable, and tax-advantaged. Your tax-deferred account is going to include traditional IRAs, 401k plans, 403b plans, or 457s. In most cases, you'll get a tax deduction whenever you contribute to one of these accounts, which is a tax benefit today because it reduces your taxable income. When it comes to pulling money out, you'll be taxed whenever you withdraw these funds as they grow tax deferred. Next up are your taxable accounts. This includes your checking or your savings or brokerage account. Money in these accounts has already been taxed, so it's funded with after-tax dollars. However, there's no tax deduction or tax deferral on these accounts. Instead, you'll pay capital gains tax. And last but not least, we have tax advantage accounts. These include a Roth IRA, Roth 401k, and in some instances, HSA accounts. Now, like taxable accounts, these are funded with after-tax dollars. However, the caveat is they're going to grow tax-free and come out tax-free for either qualified medical expenses or as long as you're following the parameters in the Roth IRA and Roth 401k, it'll come out completely tax-free. So those are the three categories of the different type of accounts. You have taxable, tax-deferred, and tax-advantage. And now you can start to see why having money spread across these three areas gives you the most flexibility. But let's talk about some use cases. First, let's talk about some of the benefits of the taxable accounts. Now, depending on your filing status and your income, for couples that are married filing jointly in 2024 that make less than $94,050, long-term capital gains rates are actually 0%, which is a huge benefit, especially if you're in this category or you have a down year in income. Now, the funds that are going to qualify for this in your taxable account again, are long-term capital gains, meaning if you held those funds or held that asset for at least a year and a day, it will then be considered and qualified for long-term capital gains treatment. If you do it any shorter than that, it's going to be short-term capital gains, otherwise known as ordinary income, so you'll pay whatever your tax rate is. Another huge benefit in planning technique amongst these accounts is what's called a Roth conversion. That's whenever we take a traditional IRA and move it to a Roth. Typically, this will be more advantageous whenever your income is lower in that taxable year. So for either business owners or maybe you're in between jobs, a lot of times it'll make sense to do a Roth conversion in those years when there's lower income because you'll be paying tax on it. So if you're overweight in tax deferred accounts, you may want to consider this as a strategy, but keep in mind it depends on your situation. I work with a lot of millennial clients, and a lot of them are either saving for a house, building their forever home, building a second home, whatever it may be. Unlike just tax deferred and tax advantage accounts, taxable accounts give you that kind of flexibility where you can save for your goals without them just sitting in a checking or a savings account. But a lot of the benefits here are going to come post-retirement. For example, tax deferred accounts have what's called RMDs, or required minimum distributions. That means the government's going to come knocking on the door and make you take money out of those accounts. Now, that could be a great thing if that's your main source of retirement income, but what happens if you want to leave that money behind to a loved one? There's more tax efficient ways to pass that money on. Also, we don't know where tax rates or tax laws are going to be 10, 20, 30, or even 40 years from now, depending on how far out your retirement is. And by having your money spread out across multiple buckets, it allows us to plan for the best, yet still prepare for the worst. A large tax rate increase or tax law change could derail your retirement if you're overweight in any one of these accounts. So now you understand some of the key benefits that come along with doing this, but how diversified are you? The answer to that is in getting organized. List out all of the accounts that you have under the tax deferred, taxable, or tax advantage category. to see how diversified you actually are. So I hope this gave you some things to think about, and now you can understand some of the benefits that come with being tax diversified as well as diversifying your investments. I'll have more specific videos out on some of the things that we had talked about today, as I can get in a lot more detail, but for the sake of time, wanted to make sure that we covered all of the basics. That being said, if you want to see more personal finance content, make sure you go ahead and click subscribe. Again, I'm Kuyat, and I'll see you next time.